some of the places we haven't been in quite a long time. So it was like, you know, we hadn't been to Texas in, a good 8 or 9 years. We hadn't been to Florida in even longer. So, hitting some of these towns was pretty exciting because it was just like, I mean, we played a show in San Antonio, and the last time we played in San Antonio was like,
The
you
Tony
know,
Parker era.
like a 75 cap like bar, somewhere in the wrong side of town, so yeah, it was like really getting the dust knocked off in some of these places. We haven't been to Southern Florida. We went to Fort Lauderdale. I don't think we've been to Miami since shit like 2009 or something like that. So it was kind of like reinvigorating, playing for people who haven't seen us in quite a long time.
100%. You played some really cool venues. I got to
Yeah.
leave this off here. The Ryman Auditorium. What was that like to play compared to other places?
It's very different because the stage and the main performance area is an active part of the museum all day. So, like, your whole crew, we're all up on stage getting our stuff ready, and there's little steps going up for people to take a photo op with the stage, like while you're setting up the stage. So all day long, you're kind of sharing this space with museum goers. Uh, so that was pretty interesting. And then at 4 o'clock, it shuts down. But it was one of those places like, it had a crazy amount of history like all over it and a lot of pride. I mean, even our bus driver who was from Tupelo, Mississippi, he made sure the bus was like squeaky clean to even be in the Ryman parking lot because he's like, it's the Grand Ole Opry, baby, like I got to step up. So that part of it was really cool. I mean, I'm not a huge country music fan, so like as far as the names and the faces, it probably didn't ring as much as it did with some others, but it's a tangible history there, and it was fun to photobomb a couple tourists early on in the day when I was setting up my drums.
And then you guys hit Atlantic City. What was that like? The Hard Rock? That venue seemed interesting. It seemed like kind of a converted convention hall.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I forget that the Hard Rock in AC used to be the Taj,
Oh yeah.
so like it's got those weird archaic opulence, touches of the past in there. But AC for me, that's a family show.
Yeah.
So, we had a day off in AC, but my entire crew came after school to hang out.
Oh.
So it turned into, like that's where it's a good thing that one thing that connects a band always and should be part of their initial motives is like, shared goals and shared like you need to be looking in the same direction and wanting the same things to get there adequately. And I think one of the things that helped Gaslight at this point is the fact that we all have kids. And we're all kind of going through that thing. So, the morning of a show when we're meeting at the hotel pool at 10 o'clock to let the kids go swimming and sitting on, the chair, like it's a different way of doing things. By the time the show happens, you're like, because you get one day of family day and you're back. So I mean, that's one of the biggest things is like, when I'm in full on kid mode at home, I'm really winding down the clock at night at about 10 o'clock. And I usually don't get past like 11 o'clock. And, that's literally my set time on tour, is so, you know, I quickly adjust once I'm out on the road where, like the first day I can't sleep past like 8 o'clock. But a few days in, I'm like waking up from my second sleep. It's like 10, 11, and I'm like, okay, good. I feel nice and rested. The harder transition is coming back. And when you get used to, that second sleep, going to sleep at 2, 3 in the morning and waking up at, 10, 11, 12, and then you plop yourself back home and you get the 6:45 wake up, that's what's like jarring and what kind of makes you feel like a shell of a person and a little confused for the first few days, for sure.
How was the day night doubleheader in Atlanta? That must have been a
Went
nuts day.
okay.
Yeah.
Went okay. I think we were definitely feeling it. That was a 12 midnight set time, like 12:15 or something. So after a festival set that day. So it was due to a fuck up, like basically it was one of those situations where we were supposed to play our after show or our, non-festival show Friday night and then play our festival set Saturday. I see an Instagram post from my own band that says this show is on Saturday. I hit up management. I'm like, why is that the same day? They're like, oops, I don't know. And it was a fuck up by the festival for putting us on. But they'd already announced the show. They already started selling tickets. So it's one of those unfortunate, things where if we were to cancel, even if we were like, oh, the festival messed up, we're still canceling a show on people who bought tickets already and stuff like that. So it was kind of like hey guys, can you do it? We're like, what do you mean we do it? You already fucking started it. Like, so yeah, we didn't have much of a choice, but it ended up, I was more nervous for it than it actually was. But it was a heck of a day. I mean, because we played daytime at a festival, so this entire lighting package we have is useless. So the whole crew had to wake up super early, get to the venue, unload all the the audio and lighting rigs at like 9 o'clock in the morning, then drive back to the festival with the gear, to get set up, play the show. And I think like 15 minutes after we were done playing, we were in a car trying to get back to the venue, getting that show set up. So it was a heck of a day. Probably harder for our crew even than it was for us. So
Yeah.
So bless them. Had a little time off in San Antonio. Saw the Alamo for the first time because it was. I really. What's that?
No, I was just asking if it's memorable.
It is. I mean, for someone like me, it doesn't take long to find a place like that a little skeevy, because it's just like, historical murder porn kind of stuff going on. And, one of those great reminders that the winners write history, because the other side of that conflict is not very well talked about at that place. And it's got a real kind of like America's Jeff Foxworthy kind of vibe. So, the actual place is like, it's interesting, and it's cool to see. I'm glad I did. We asked one of the security guards if there was a basement, of course, and if Pee-wee's bike was in the bottom, because we had to. I didn't pee on it. But no, it was interesting. I took a nice walk there. I decided to not spend any money in the gift shop, though. What I enjoyed the most in San Antonio was the Riverwalk, which is this beautifully designed, like, just canal and river that cuts through. It feels very like European and cool. Well, it feels European plus like a bubblegum shrimp company. And, it's a little touristy too. But yeah, that was a really nice thing. In Memphis, I had a day off and I caught a Memphis Redbirds Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp game. That's really the name of the team. But I got to see Jordan Walker, who was just sent down by the Cardinals a few days before. That was a fun day off. And one of the cooler day offs I had, I was surprised, was in Portland, Maine.
Oh, I love that town.
What a great town. What a great town. I'll tell you, the last time I was in Portland, Maine was in like 2006 when Gaslight Anthem decided to do a tour with our buddies, the Forever Endeavor. And we decided to do New England in January. In vans, we played at a pizza place in Portland, Maine called like Vito's Pizza or something. There was very few people there. And this was the night. This is always in my head what I remember Portland, Maine as, is the night I learned what runner's nipples are. Because that night at the show, it was so freezing in the venue that, nips got a little hard, but then I worked up a sweat playing and ouch. after like 3-4 songs. Like I couldn't bear it, and I had to take my shirt off because my nipples hurt so bad. And it took like 3 or 4 days to recover. So it's one of those funny things about tour is like, um, if you wind up in a random city in a weird side of town and the weather's bad, in your head, you're like, oh, that fucking city sucks.
Yeah.
And forever in your head, you're like, that place sucks. And then you go back like 15 years later on a nice day in a different part of town. You're like, oh, what a great place. And I kind of had that feeling with Portland this time. Yeah, what a cool town. It took me everywhere, man. And even ending the tour at a apple orchard outside of Syracuse, New York, which is very interesting. But again, pretty day. I was trying to treat every show like it could be your last, like the way that you're not guaranteed any day of your life. And, so I was really trying to be, grateful and see past the hard stuff of tour pretty often. But by the end of it, I sure was ready to come home.